Epstein Island isn't the only island out there where they have hurt.
The first time I really came over here, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
¡Comieron humanos! ¡Asquerosidad! ¡Comieron humanos! Yo no estaba enterada de nada. Los asesinatos sí, pero que habían comido.
Jim Caviezel just confirmed Epstein Island isn't the only one, and he meant it literally. You remember Jim from Mel Gibson's movie The Passion of the Christ and, more recently, The Sound of Freedom. And Jim is now saying that Hollywood tried to bury his movie because it showed too much. Remember the island raid scene in Sound of Freedom? That wasn't a coincidence.
Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
But according to Jim, there are many more private islands like this one, and the things that happen there are way darker than most people can even imagine. However, Jim claims the reason you never heard of these other islands is because the same people who own them, they also own the mainstream news networks. They put politicians in power, they control Hollywood, and they pay celebrities millions to keep you distracted. So let's start with what Jim exposed, because these new DOJ files that just dropped, they prove he wasn't exaggerating.
But he's talking, and they all cried out Epstein Island. And I went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're up against.
Wow.
Epstein Island isn't the only island out there.
Jim Caviezel recently opened up about the parallels between his movie Sound of Freedom and the whole Epstein scandal. And he told this story about screening the movie in Las Vegas for about 1,500 people. There's a scene in Sound of Freedom where the main character points to an island and says he has to go there for an operation. And Jim noticed the whole crowd started during this scene. They all recognized something familiar, Epstein's Island.
We had 1,500 patriots, the people that were interested in seeing the film in Las Vegas. During one part of the film, everybody in the audience started whispering. And of course you're watching the viewers to see if they're even interested in the movie, but they were very, very locked in. At one point, they all started whispering, and I thought I've never seen that before. So after the movie, I asked them a couple of questions, and then I had to ask them, why were you whispering at this one particular part in the movie? And I didn't pick up on it. And they all started screaming out Epstein Island.
Now here's where Jim went further. He said this isn't the only island where the elites are doing these disgusting things. And Jim literally got when he said that.
Epstein Island isn't the only island out there where they have hurt.
Notice how Jim didn't say allegedly. He didn't say, some people think. He stated it like a fact. But here's where it gets weird. According to Jim, he started noticing that anytime a story came out on these islands, it was gone the next day. So according to Jim, it's not just that these places exist, it's that the people running them also control the news cycle. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what proof does he have? He's an actor. Well, that's where the 2026 Epstein files come in. So as you all know, earlier this year, the DOJ started dumping files, millions of them. But guess what? So far, they've only released 2% of the files they have. So just imagine what else they're hiding, because the stuff they released is already horrific enough. And what came out is exactly what Jim was hinting at. Let me give you the biggest one. In February 2026, one congressman got access to some of the unredacted Epstein files, and he found something was initially hid. An email from Epstein dated April 24, 2009. Here's exactly what it said. Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the tea video. Now here's the part the DOJ didn't want you to see. The recipient's name was redacted. Who was it? A sultan who runs a global logistics company that controls major ports around the world. We're talking shipping, trade, the movement of goods across entire oceans. But wait, it gets worse. The same sultan in another email wrote this to Epstein. And again, I'm quoting, "I am off to sample a fresh 100% Russian at my yacht." Now here's the part that proves Jim was right about the media cover-up. When it was pushed to unredact the sultan's name, what happened? The guy resigned. Immediately. From his multi-billion-dollar company. But here's where it connects directly to what Jim said about the islands. Remember how Jim said Epstein Island isn't the only one? Because here's what they don't want you to know. This private playbook, it's been running for decades, long before Epstein bought Little St. James. Let's go back to the 1970s. North Fox Island, Lake Michigan. A guy named Francis Sheldon, old money, Yale graduate, descendant of a former U.S. governor and Secretary of War, buys the island in 1960. He sets up a charitable mission called Brother Paul's Mission. Sounds nice, right? But here's what it actually was. Sheldon and his crew would recruit boys from underprivileged communities, fly them to the island, film them, and then sell the tapes to a client list of wealthy subscribers.
People thought it was. While on the surface, it was just a summer camp for young boys, teaching them survivalist skills in nature. Behind the scenes, these children were being flown to this island to be exploited, filmed, and traded among the men who sponsored the island's operations. The owner of North Fox Island, a man named Frank Sheldon, had purchased the land specifically for this purpose. As a matter of fact, the very first thing he did was built an airstrip on the island.
And get this, when a gym teacher named Gerald Richards got caught and flipped, he testified in front of a U.S. Senate subcommittee in 1977. He told them he had about 600 customers, all wealthy men. And according to court records, Richards admitted he was giving away materials just to get access to rich supporters. Again, same playbook as Epstein. Recruit rich clients and use them for access and protection. So what happened to Sheldon? He fled to the Netherlands before they could arrest him. And since the Netherlands didn't have an extradition treaty for this stuff back then, he died there in 1996. He never saw a courtroom. And all those victims he took to his island never saw justice. Now let's jump to a different island, different ocean, but same chilling story again. Pitcairn Island, South Pacific. This is the same island where the bounty mutineers settled back in 1790. Fast forward to 1999, and a 15-year-old girl told British police she'd been used repeatedly since 12 by the island's mayor. What followed was an investigation called Operation Unique. And what they found was horrifying. For decades, literally since the 1950s, British officials had known that girls on Pitcairn were being targeted. A medical officer in the 1960s wrote about it. A social worker in the 1970s warned about what was happening in families. And London's response? They just sent pamphlets about health issues. And eventually, only 7 men were convicted. Now let me give you one more, because this one connects directly to the Epstein files. The Wonderland Club, 1998. An international ring so organized that it required members to supply 10,000 new images just to join. They were doing crazy things on camera and broadcasting it live over the internet. The operation spanned 13 countries, and it eventually led to over 100 arrests. But here's what the media didn't tell you. The Wonderland Club used encryption created by former intelligence agents. So this wasn't just a bunch of crazy men in basements. This was sophisticated. And some of those arrested? Not poor guys. People with resources. People who could afford to fly around the world for these clubs. So when Jim Caviezel says Epstein Island isn't the only one, he's not just saying that to be dramatic. He knows what's going on. North Fox Island, Pitcairn, the Wonderland Club. And that's just what we know about from decades ago. The only difference now is that people like Jim Caviezel aren't staying quiet. However, it feels like most of Hollywood has gone completely silent. Think about it. How many A-list celebrities have said a single word about the files? Almost none. And here's why. Jim Caviezel is the exception, not the rule. Most of these celebrities have been bought. And the ones who can't be bought, they've been blackmailed. J.E. wasn't only collecting material on politicians and billionaires. Hollywood is full of his old friends. Those flight logs don't lie. And what happens when a celebrity actually tries to speak up? 2 things. Either they end up labeled as crazy, just like the media tried to do to Jim and Mel Gibson, or they end up, well, you know the pattern. Accidental OD, mental health issues, unexpected medical emergency. Think what happened to Isaac Cappy, comedian Trevor Moore, Ellen DeGeneres' ex Anne Heche, and many others who tried to speak up. It's not a coincidence anymore. It's a system. Jim Caviezel is still standing because he's got nothing to lose. And he doesn't care about the Hollywood parties or the industry awards. But most celebrities, they care. And that's exactly why they'll never say a word about any of this. But let me hear your thoughts on all this. Do you think the DOJ will ever release the remaining 98% of the Epstein files? And if Jim Caviezel is right about multiple islands, who do you think owns the ones that never get mentioned? Drop your thoughts below and stay tuned for the next video.